do you think, and both of you, do you think that we need an existential crisis, like a war, for example, in order for there to be less conformity like is happening now? I mean, we're sort of sleepwalking.
We are in a war right now. We are in war.
Whoa, which war? Which war? Excuse me, you look like a smart person. Can I ask you a question for YouTube? Have a good day then, yeah? Excuse me, you look like smart people. Can I ask you a question for YouTube? Good question, I promise, yeah? It's a good question, I promise. It's a really good question. Can I? Is the UK sleepwalking into fascism? Oh, big one, eh? Not sure. What about you? Got an opinion? No? I have another question then. I'm of the belief that the UK is becoming a docile, passive, conformist country ruled over by social media, corporations and elites, inhabited by people that let an algorithm think for them rather than being able to think independently or freely themselves. Would you agree or disagree with that?
We're not from here. So.
Where are you from?
We're Irish.
Are you? Oh, well, is your opinion of the UK the same as mine? From what you've seen? You're in here though. Yeah.
Sorry.
What about Ireland then? Are you Irish? You don't sound Irish. If you is he Irish?
Yeah.
Is it? I apologise, my friend. I know how proud Irish people can be, which is for fair reason. Yeah. Is Ireland becoming similar to the UK then, a highly conformist country inhabited by? No.
Sorry, I don't think we can really help you.
No. All right. Have a good day then. Yeah. Enjoy your vacation. Excuse me. You look like smart people. Can I ask you a question for YouTube? Have a good day. Excuse me, you look like smart people. Can I ask you a question for YouTube?
I wouldn't say we're smart, but yeah.
Is the UK, in your opinion, sleepwalking into fascism?
Ooh.
Oh.
I'm a real fence sitter.
What's that?
So, yes, we are being dictated to.
Oh, right.
But at the same time, I believe we need rules.
Right.
And rules
Wow.
can't always be broken.
Okay.
At the same time, rules aren't to be followed.
All right.
Which sounds really muggy, but
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. You're a supporter of the social contract then, rules, but not chaos.
yeah. I
Yeah.
get that.
All right. Where are you
You're
from?
trying to trick me into something there.
No.
You
You,
from around here, Pimlico.
Pimlico. Wow. Posh people. Yeah.
Well, I've got a
Yeah. You've got a working class twang. I didn't want to say it. Yeah.
I was going to laugh and say I'm in a penthouse overlooking the river, but yeah.
Fuck off, really? Honestly?
In the council estate.
Oh, wow, okay. Queen of the slumlord, yeah?
Queen of the slum.
Queen of the slums, yeah? Take care, have a good day. Take care. Excuse me, you look like smart people. Can I ask you a question? Have a good day then, yeah? Rather mundane looking modern contemporary buildings next door to quite a lovely charismatic building, actually, probably built sometime during the Tudor or Edwardian, I don't know, period of the UK. Who knows? I see some people in both directions. Excuse me, sorry to disturb you. You look like smart people. Can I ask you a question for YouTube? Have a good day. Have a good day. Excuse me, can I ask you a question for my YouTube channel? It's a good question. No? Have a good day then, yeah? Lovely. It is as you would expect around here. Same as it was last week, really. And you got to warm the people up because there's a social code to this part of London. And that social code is order over chaos. You see, the working classes are less prone to play by the rules and therefore they're more vocal on the streets. But around here, like I mentioned last week, it's more bourgeois culture and therefore people will fall in line with bourgeois rules and social etiquette of behaving the way that the bourgeoisie behave. I see some people. Excuse me, you look like smart people. Can I ask you a question for YouTube? Oh, wow. Do you think the UK is sleepwalking into fascism?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Not
Why?
Sleepwalking, very wide.
Right, consciously walking into fascism, yeah?
definitely.
Could you elaborate on why? And does your mate agree? Do you agree?
I would agree for sure.
Where the hell are you from?
Well, it's an interesting question. South London originally, but
Really?
now living here.
Right.
Brought up in Canada.
Oh,
I
okay.
think we're seeing fascism in its, I mean, I'm not going to mention where, but you can imagine
Yeah, sure.
where it's probably happened.
I
might
understand.
go through that country at some point. So
Me
I don't-
too. Yeah, no problem.
Be careful with what you say about that fascist taking things over.
Possibly. You were saying, my friend?
About what this, yeah, of course.
Yeah?
You have your eyes closed not to see it, but yeah.
I see, I understand. I'm of the belief, and maybe both of you can tell me if you agree or disagree, that the UK and maybe Canada and maybe most modern contemporary or hyper-modern societies in general are becoming docile, passive and conformist. People are being ruled over by social media, elites and corporations, and people are allowing algorithms to think for them rather than being able to think independently and freely themselves. Do you agree or disagree with that? It's a big one, that, isn't
I
it?
would agree, but I think that's been happening for a long time.
Right,
Yeah,
since when?
For the younger generation, yeah, but anybody
Yeah.
who's got half a mind and you can look back to before it all happened.
Right.
Is it not similar to when the broadsheets were here, when everybody was reading papers? It was very easy to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, do you not think though that now there's even more imagery, even more information now? You know, back then there was only one narrative, now there's many different narratives. Like me, I've got my own YouTube channel, very small channel, but I can put my own bias, you know, and agenda into that, and it's the same with millions of other people, potentially, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier for the likes of you to put unfactual things on and not to be checked.
Yeah, it
and
is.
Then
it's true.
For your 500 followers. And then once you've got 500 people waffling something,
Yeah.
it might become truth.
Yeah, it is
know?
true. Yeah.
But whereas before, you know, we had sort of left and right or whatever kind of newspapers.
Yep.
And it was kind of a bit easier to get it.
Distinguish, bias.
And now, yeah, that's why, you know, nobody's wearing the same trainers anymore. Nobody's listening to the same music. We've got no culture.
I would disagree with that. I think that people are becoming hyper conformist. Like, for example, I think there's no youth culture anymore. There is ideology, religion and all of that shit, but if, for example, I travelled around.
People are very conformist now.
Yeah.
There's a Starbucks on every street corner. It's
Yes.
the same shops on every high street
Yeah.
around the world.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Close your eyes.
People are wearing the same brands. People are using the same technology.
But it is. No, I think you're underestimating what's going on. There is a culture. It's just different. Whereas before, we were always anti. But now everybody is. We've got so many little cultures that this is exactly. I'd imagine that the powers that be want it. Loads and loads and loads of little movements. Whereas before, when I was young, we had a thing called the rave scene, and then before that we had punk rock, we had...
Well, that's what I mean. I believe that, you know, if you look at the latter half of the 20th century, there were lots of cultural movements, you know.
We have a lot to be angry about. We just come out of a war, there's people's skin, we've got...
True.
You know, we had the first influx of West Indian people, then we had and then we had the Indians, and then we had that, and now we're sort of 30, 50 years into it, kind of getting used to it now. But then we're getting a new religion coming over.
What's that?
Well, Islam, obviously.
Right, okay.
You know.
Yeah. Are you threatened by that, by the way, or?
Like threatened.
Yeah, or just aware, maybe?
Aware, of course. You'd be not to be aware.
Right, okay.
But it's it's more of an ideology coming over here,
right,
rather than a
religion. Yeah,
whatever.
or a spiritual
Whatever
movement.
you want to call it.
Yeah, hello.
It's different to anything that we've experienced before in mass.
Right, okay,
You know,
all right.
It's not like a colour of skin. It's not like our indigenous women are running off with their men and stuff like that. It's completely different, you know.
You're from areas like this, by the way, yeah? I see. It's interesting because I take this camera and I go to places like Feltham and Hounslow, which are much more working class than areas like this, right? And there, I think that is really where immigration and mass migration is happening. You don't see it so much here. You do, yeah? You disagree with that,
well,
right?
I'm from an area where it was originally. I'm originally from Wembley, Southall, Greenall.
Now that is very working class.
So that's the original place of mass immigration.
Yeah,
And
especially in London, yeah.
Kind of bigotry language and all that nonsense. I was listening to exactly the same shit 40 years ago.
Right.
And now I'm getting it here, and it's been exactly the same language that's been spoken here.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's what happens.
Just to clarify, are you for migration and multiculturalism, or are you against it? Do you know?
I don't think you've got to be for it. Because
okay, all right.
That's how we progress, and just that's.
Yeah.
You can't go bombing countries 30 years ago and create.
Okay.
This.
Do you really think
stable environment and
yeah,
you know, and now with social media and things like that.
All right.
You know, I want a nice car, I want a big TV, I want an iPhone, I want a big house, I want to do this, and if you're not getting it in your little village because everybody's shooting about on camels and that, then you know, everybody wants a better life.
I agree with you, but to play devil's advocate, do you think that it's the fault of the working classes for those decisions about war and bombing and potential genocide?
We were just talking about that.
Right.
That's all a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
Than whatever, but just yeah, I think originally it started, you know. Well, I've got my own little view on it, you know. You start knocking out men like Saddam Hussein who were looking after that part of the world, and that was the beginning of a massive, you know, Middle Eastern movement.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned before about, you know, like the latter part of the 20th century having all these different vibrant cultural youth movements, and now that's like not existing as much anymore. It's not as prevalent anymore. And you mentioned like the war. Do you think, and both of you, do you think that we need an existential crisis like a war, for example, in order for there to be less conformity like is happening now? I mean, we're sort of sleepwalking.
We are in war.
Whoa. Which war?
We're having an economic war, right?
Oh, you mean the tariffs and the right? A Cold War, yeah.
The Ukraine is a semi-warm war. I mean, no one wants.
Well, this is war, yeah,
We're
sure.
not going to send our young men to go and sit in a trench now and all that shit.
Well,
we can starve them out by charging them.
Yeah, that is true. Weapons manufacturing is happening. Yeah, that is 100% true. But we're not seeing something like the Blitz, for example. You know, or
but the war's going to happen differently now.
Right. Okay. Sure. But you know that. And I would agree with both of you 100%. Really, really insightful. But do you think that because the war is going to happen differently, that will affect people differently? For example, you can choose to be sort of conscious in a sense, right? You can choose to care and not care. You know, whether it's Palestine, Israel, or you know, Russia, Ukraine. A lot of people pay attention to that, like yourselves. A lot of people don't give a shit. You know, so we are at war, but in a sense, it's a war that you can ignore. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, to a degree, up until you go and buy your milk that used to be £1, then all of a sudden is £9.
Right.
So it's a different type of war.
Yeah.
It's a different style
price of bread's going up because Ukraine produces
a
lot of
different style of, you know, that's what people are talking about.
True.
The reason why that is because two countries are too upset with each other.
Yeah.
And then that's created
inflation and economic ramifications.
It's a different type of style of, you know, we're getting I think wars will be conducted a bit differently from now on, especially in fantastic cities like London and things like that.
You know, I'm 32 years old, so I'm a millennial, not a Gen Z. And what I would say about the younger generation and, you know, this docile conformity that I see, I don't think that there's like a hegemonic power, centralized power that's making it happen. I just think that this is what happens in a hyper-rationalized modern society. You know, modernism, I think that it suppresses individual freedom in a sense, you know, and it creates a conformist society. It's just a symptom rather than a plan, if that makes any sense.
About that.
Who?
You don't know Adam Curtis, the documentary filmmaker?
No, who is that? Tell me. Is he still alive?
He's probably the greatest documentary filmmaker this
Oh, wow.
country's produced in the last...
Adam Curtis, yeah?
Yeah. He's just done a documentary not that long ago called Hyper-Normalization, which is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah?
We're following the Soviet pattern. When everyone knows the government's lying to us,
Okay.
everyone just goes along with it.
Yeah, no one's putting up a fight or any resistance. Yeah, 73% of British people, I don't know what the statistic would be for Canada, but probably something similar. 73% of British people don't trust the government, but nothing ever changes. They're still elected. There's no...
And that's no different than under the Soviet regime.
Is it? I have no idea, but I've never...
The government there.
Yeah, of course,
and
of
yet
course.
They just let it continue to run. So
Let's go get fish and chips.
All right, take care, brother, yeah? Thanks a lot. Yeah, have a good day. Cheers, boys.